This is the podcast that really does think Matt Hancock is fucking useless. It is absolutely... I'll bleep that out. I knew I wasn't going to get through that. Hello and welcome to the Lib Dem Podcast. This is part 2 of our latest news because the by-election obviously took up a whole episode as we were so giddy and happy. My name is John Potter. I'm the leader of the Press and Liberal Democrats and host of the Lib Dem Podcast. You can also find on this lovely chat, we have Sam Al-Hamdani from Oldham. Hi, Sam.
Hello.
And we have Richard Kemp. CBE, MBE, I forgot which one it is, Richard, now.
MBE, I'd have sent it back, do you know?
Oh, right, there we go, from the Liverpool Lib Dems. This is obviously just going to talk about some of the other news that's been going on at the moment. Obviously, there's been absolutely lots of serious issues, so we decided just to do this as a little separate episode because it didn't kind of match in with our happiness and joy to do with the by-election victory. And Sam, you in particular wanted to talk about the new report about the police that's just come out.
Well, yeah, I was talking about this was on the sort of rape victims, overall system, because not just this report, it's just been a succession of reports. We've had stuff from Everyone's Invited, so we had the Ofsted investigation that just came back and basically said, if your school is working on the basis that is not sexual abuse and harassment is not happening in your school, you're working on the wrong basis. If you don't know it's there and you don't know about it. And then going back from that, and there's just been this succession in the same way. And that's happened at the same time that the domestic abuse bill has been coming in and has done some really good things, but then had things missing. And I really wanted to kind of go, look, this is such a failing by the Conservative government. I mean, it is horrific, and I was so angry about it. I was like, no, this needs to be attacked, and it needs to be done better. I'm so angry about it. I really am, and I can't tell you how upset I am at the people who have been failed for years by just a lack of investment in the police, a lack of training for people to enable victims to come and talk to people. It just needs completely overhauling, completely changing. And because we have this local government power base. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on a roll. But we have such a strength in local government. And you really do have, if you're a Liberal Democrat in local government, you have the opportunity to make a change on this. There is funding available from the Home Office for tackling violence against women and girls. At the moment, there is a bidding process going on. If you are a Liberal Democrat in local government, make your council go and bid for that money. I know we're going to be doing that, but also be out there talking to the schools because, sorry, there you go. It was a rant.
Keep going.
We need to change this. We need people to stop and look at the way that people have been abandoned. I really have been abandoned on this. When I know that rape, the rates of convictions for rape are low everywhere, but I mean they're staggeringly low. When the conviction rate is around 1.6%, and yet.
That's just those being charged. That's not even conviction rate. That's just those who've even been charged.
And that's out of not out of the people who we think have been raped. That's out of cases that
It's and just so the audiences know what we're talking about. So there were 128,000 victims of rape or attempted rape last year. Only 20% of them get reported as a crime. 1.6% get charged. And in case anyone is of the opinion, well, are some of these malicious, made up, Home Office researchers, only 3% are dubious in that regards. We are completely failing these on majority women who are the victims here. So, Richard, you've had to deal with councils and this sort of issue for a very long time. What's your opinion of this?
On the substantive issue, I think it's much more involved than the police. The figures you gave out are absolutely appalling. I'm not disputing that in any way, but I think the real problem is the way that we still objectify women, and we do it in a massive number of ways. I don't watch the television very much, but the number of adverts I've seen lately for women's perfumes, and in fact men's, with scantily clad women on them. And if we start doing that, I've seen several other adverts in which we pay people to promote products by beautifying their body and using their body as a tool. And if we do that, and the big boys and girls in businesses do it, then that's going to impact on everyone in society. So I think it's a fundamental failure of the way that we as society treat women, which means that some people think that they can rape them because they're just a sex object, which means that women who've been raped find it very difficult to report it because they don't think they're going to get it. So this is highly complex, and it isn't short term. It isn't just the Tory government, Sam. This has been going on forever, I should think, but certainly as long as I know.
Sam, do you want to come back?
Yeah, I take that completely on board. What I would like to do is I'm going to signpost people. If you're, I said if you're in local government or whatever, I do some work with Our Streets Now, which is just an amazing campaigning organisation that wants to criminalise street harassment, but not just them. I mean, Survivors Trust, Rape Crisis, the Refuge, in particular, Refuge. I mean, there are so many organisations out there and doing such good campaigning work, and they are prepared to sort of sit down and work with you and help you to deliver solutions in your area. I literally, this morning I got an email off one of the campaigners who runs Our Streets Now, going, "Are you aware of this? Can we help you? If you work with these organisations, like they will help you to build your community better."
Yeah. And I think the articles are all online for people that want to read them as well. But what there seems to be from the victims' charities is that this review has been a missed opportunity. And I think I'm very conscious that we're now just three men on this call, but as a society, we must do better, I think is the answer. But
well, it is a men's problem that's inflicted on women.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying I wouldn't want a mix of people. So of course I would. But we tend to think of this as a woman's problem. It isn't. They're the ones in the receipt of this, and it's men that must change, not women.
Yeah, and that came up. I mean, I'm a fairly biggish guy. I'm a heavy set, nearly 6 foot tall, and I became very aware that if it was a dark road and there was a lone girl and I was walking behind them, my behaviour might be I should actually cross the road and actually just be a little bit more conscious of what someone my size can be unintentionally be intimidating. We'll probably deal with this more. Particularly, we've got lessons we can learn from the Lib Dem women's group and stuff like that. And I'm absolutely sure people like Lisa, Hannah, and Laura would like to come on this and discuss it as well. But it is an important news item, and in a way, the fact it's been so well highlighted in the press and it's come up, and so that maybe let's be optimistic that something might be done about it. There's no way of doing an easy segue from that topic, but we'll talk about kind of doing something about it. Let's talk about Dominic Cummings, because he has. What do we make of the Cummings revelations that Matt Hancock is useless and the text? Do you think it's changing the dial at all, or Cummings' reputation on the public is terrible anyway. He has an awful reputation. But is it forcing the government to move away from vaccines, which they've successfully kind of moved territory onto, back to the horrendous decisions they made at the start? Richard, do you have thoughts on this?
I think that if we refer it to our last podcast, which was all about the by-election, of course, where we stormed away and took the seat from the Tories. The revelations have been in the last fortnight from Cummings, and there's very clearly been an upturn in the Lib Dem fortunes in Amersham and Chesham in that time. So one wonders whether or not the biggest effect of this is the chipping away in floating voters' minds of the integrity of the Conservative Party, and in particular their leader. So the precise details of who said what and when aren't as important as the absolute turmoil, nastiness, bitchiness, which clearly exists at the top of the Labour Party, and people don't like that. So I think that he may well have moved the narrative, but onto the morals and leadership qualities of the Tory party.
Sam?
Yeah, I think that part about it being the people in the middle ground who it's actually going to shift the dial for, because there's a huge amount of confirmation bias in so much of what we see in politics, especially because, and anything on social media, what you see is the extremes of that opinion. And so what the reactions that you get and see that really visibly are the ones from people who either are massively in favour of the Conservative Party or massively against the Conservative Party. And it is really interesting that it's for people who are much quieter and I think are more concerned about that dignity and that respect and that moral centre, that actually there'll probably be a much quieter but more influential impact on.
Yeah. No. Yeah, and I think you're both right. I think it's that drip effect that will hurt the Tories, particularly with people that we've just seen in Amersham and Chesham who this isn't new for them. They've had a Tory MP for they did have a Tory MP for a very long time, and they don't need much to get pushed off them, it would seem, at the moment, particularly that type of, because the One Nation, as we've mentioned in the podcast, Conservative voter. Hello, John from the Lib Dem Podcast here. We are delighted to say that this episode is sponsored by Praetor Rains. Now more than ever, you need a professional-looking online presence and website. Praetor Rains have been helping Liberal Democrat campaigns succeed for 18 years. Their Lib Dem Foci package combines a website, social media and email system to help Lib Dems win. You'll receive great support from real people, fair pricing and a huge range of features to choose from. Praetor Rains are already the bespoke developers for Lighthouse, Lib Dem Draw Online and the LD Directory. They combine a talented system design with an unrivaled understanding of our party, our data and our systems. To find out more, check out the Praetor Rains website at praetorrains.co.uk/liberal-democrats. This podcast has been sponsored by the Katora Coffee Club, the UK's most environmentally friendly coffee club. There are over 400 independent roasters in the UK, each one crafting coffee in their own unique style. Katora Coffee Club works with some of the best to take you on a voyage of coffee discovery. The Katora Coffee Club delivers ethically sourced and independently roast coffee directly to your door. Each month you'll receive between 2 and 4 bags of coffee and their monthly extract magazine. Even better for Lib Dem podcast listeners, use the code BETTERCOFFEE to save 5% on subscriptions and gift boxes for a limited time only. All Katora Coffee Club boxes are carbon negative and offset the CO2. So why not do some good, enjoy some great coffee and check out the website www.katoracoffeeclub.com. Now, back to the podcast. Let's quickly go on to two combined issues, which is Brexit, Northern Ireland and the Australian trade deal. I mean,
3 issues.
That is 3 issues, because I added the Australian trade deal at the end. My counting can usually get to 3 because they're all kind of linked. And we will do, me and Richard obviously have had interviews in the past with the Alliance Party and with Irish Senator John McGahn. We will again be reaching out to colleagues across the Irish Sea to do chats about this, because it's just, let's talk about the DUP. That's almost UKIP leader style departure for was it Edwin Poots? in terms of
made Joe Swinson look like a stayer.
Yeah, that's right. Or Tim Farron. Tim Farron made a brilliant joke about it. He said, I lasted longer than that. So, which was very funny of Tim Farron to put that on. But it makes me very worried about what's that. The destabilisation of that vote in Northern Ireland makes me nervous about what's to come.
You're partly right, I think. I mean, I can remember during the referendum campaign doing something in a venue on the river. And I said, just look over there and I'll tell you what's going to happen. Because over there was the Irish ferry terminal. And it had one ferry to go to Belfast and one to go to Dublin. And I said, there's going to be a border. Bloody rubbish. It's going to start in Birkenhead. Bloody rubbish. And it's going to break the Good Friday Agreement. You're lying. You haven't got a clue. Now, this wasn't me being hyperbolic. Well, it was just then, but it wasn't at the time. This was just obvious facts. I'm not quite as concerned as you are, because you gave the right analogy there, John, that the DUP, there's a Trumpian and UKIP element to that. Look what's bubbling under the surface in Northern Ireland. It's a repudiation of that extremism and a movement towards our friends, our sister party in Northern Ireland, the Alliance Party. So I think, yes, there are dangers in Irish politics. In more ways, you have to be brave to be an Irish politician in a way that none of us have to. But I think that what will happen is that the Alliance Party will be strengthened, but the extremists will still go on the street. So we'll have a democratic process and an anti-democratic process as a result of this.
And Sam, this all comes about partly because of the G7 and how Britain can deal with the Brexit deal going forward. And it is utterly astonishing that the Tories are blaming this on the EU. This was their oven-ready, brilliant deal that they negotiated, and somehow it's being forced upon them by the EU.
Yeah. I mean, part of this, it's interesting. We talked about messaging and we talked about narrative, and I hate actually using narrative as a thing because actually it more becomes visible in hindsight. But they've tried to establish a narrative. They've tried to drive this through. Now, if you go through the detail of what was agreed, everything in this was inevitable, 100% inevitable. Whether they get away with it comes down to whether they can override the facts with the narrative. And that's what they're trying to do. And that's what they've been able to do so far. Frustratingly, that is what they've done so well. And you see things which do enable you to go, this might not, manage to carry on. Like we just talked about Dominic Cummings. That is an example of that narrative kind of getting out of their control, and suddenly the facts annoyingly starting to come through. And that if you are trusting narrative over reality, that is always a danger for you.
Except that eventually the reality will pile up because it's being delivered in real terms and in real timing to particular communities. It started with the fishermen. It's going through to the farmers. Now, they're not going to be taken away with this because they can see their trawlers being laid up and their cows being not replaced. So eventually there'll be another constituency and another constituency and another constituency where reality takes over from rhetoric.
Perfect example, that Richard. You segue perfectly to the farm, which is obviously this Australian deal, is the fact that we've seen, reality hits with the fishermen, and all the spin in the world isn't going to save farming communities that I was brought up in a tiny little farming village called Gilgarran in Copeland, as we talked about in the last podcast. The realities of it are those farmers are going to struggle to survive. And no amount of spin or BS from the government, when that reality hits, that's it. And Northern Ireland's a classic of the first example. The Northern Irish elections are next year. If it continues as we expect, and the DUP look like they're going to have an absolute torrid time as the people that enabled this to happen, then that reality, when we touch wood, all of us that believe that Brexit was a damn stupid idea, is going to come true in England as well, and Wales, and well, Scotland is another case, is slightly different. And I think, Sam, do we just have to be bold in what we say about this? I mean, for example, the RSPCA put a fantastic graphic out on their social media saying all the stuff that is currently banned in the UK but isn't banned in Australia, and that is about to flood in to the UK.
Yeah, I think we do have to be bold and confident about our own position in this, but without being
preachy,
without denying people their voice.
Yeah.
You know, so many people have felt, and part of the reason why they voted, or for some people, I don't want to homogenise them. There's so many different reasons why people voted for Brexit, but a lot of people voted because they didn't feel listened to. And if we go out and we're confident about what we're saying, it has to be done in a way which still listens to people and goes, I appreciate your problems. You know, you are right to feel abandoned. We can offer you something different.
But one of the problems with that, Sam, and I do agree with you, for most people, there is an incredible number of people who, as soon as they mention Brexit, I just walk away from, because there's no point in talking to them. And it's not the odd crank. We're always used to be with extreme positions. Some people will say we're people with extreme position, but there's a group of people who watch war movies, think we saved the world, think we fought Europe by ourselves, think we should return to Churchillian times. And Johnny Foreigner, particularly brown and black Johnny Foreigner, should be grateful that we've been associated with them. And that's 20% of the people. It's a big number.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about this on the podcast previously. You know, there's a line to draw. You want to be confident in yourself. It doesn't mean you're aggressive to people who have different views to you, but you have to also accept there are some people, no matter what you do, are not going to vote for you and you're not going to agree with. So you have to kind of, yes, you can listen, but you know that is a point. You know, I remember talking to someone who, you know, weirdly enough, actually was still going to vote for me, and just said, you know, we need to prepare for the coming war with the Muslims.
Yeah.
There's not a lot I can meet in the middle there with him, really. But you know, and that's part of being a politician and campaigning.
And you go from one to the other, because I remember being very depressed in a war that we only just failed to gain this time. In 12 doors, I met 3 people who went on from Brexit to denying there was a coronavirus and it was all made up. And then the next night it was better. There was just no point in talking to these people.
Yeah, but that is life as a politician. That sometimes you get extreme views. But what we are saying is, obviously, whatever's going to happen with Brexit, you know, it's going to get real very, very soon for a lot of people. And actually, coronavirus has given the government a little bit of cover in terms of some of the horrendous economic stuff that will occur from things has been stayed off by things like the furlough scheme and stuff like that. So, you know, but as Lib Dems, we need to be prepared. We don't want to be preachy. We don't tell people they were wrong. We say the people that lied to you were wrong. And this is an important analogy. Again, I can do a plug for our fantastic Patreon-only episode with Sam and I, where we talk about how you message this stuff. If people are wondering, well, how do I get that message across? Do check that out. But this was just a quick, short, sharp, other news ones, because obviously we've been delighted with the news of the by-election. Thank you to Richard, to Sam for staying on and doing the extra half hour with this. Do follow everything to do with the Lib Dem Podcast at Lib Dem Pod. Do follow Sam and Richard on social media. They are on there. Always worth a watch and a follow to get what's going on in Liverpool and Oldham. And if you want, you can follow me as well. Oh, he's gone. No, he's back. Well, wow, I was drawing that out, but thank you so much. Wow, brutal.
Your ending was better than your starting on this one.
All I was going to do was say thank you and goodbye, and then no, I'm done. He's a guy that leaves the cinema before the credits come on.
But I never leave before standing up for the national anthem, John. I think that's very important.
Yeah. But have a great rest of your day, folks. Thank you very much for listening to this episode, and thank you, Richard and Sam.
Bye.